I'd like to ask you both for some marriage advice. My wife and I have had a very nice relationship for 20 years, but occasionally we have a fight, and it's a similar fight over and over. And what she's saying is, look, I live in I live in normal society, and I'm around normal people, and I want to be normal. And I say, well, I don't know, the paint we're using, we got to make sure it has nothing in it, and the mattress can't have flame retardants, and the carpet can't have chemicals, and the outdoor lawn can't have chemicals, and I don't want to ever use an ant thing that has chemicals. And if there's mold in the shower, we got to get vinegar, and I don't want to go to the dry cleaner because I don't even know what they use. And don't use turn you got to take the cell phone off in the car, because when you're moving, the signal's even worse. And she's got older parents, and there's reasons why you need the cell phone on. So the real question, forget about the theory, I like the theory, but in the real practical world, what are the non-negotiables, the equivalent to smoking cigarettes? What are the things that, before we talk about details, what are the things when it comes to chemicals and wireless radiation that are non-negotiable? Absolute, positively, you're looking everyone in the eye and saying, take out a pen and paper and never do these 1, 3, 5, or 10 things. Before we go to things that might hurt you, what are the clear-cut things that you're putting your foot down and saying, this has got to be non-negotiable? This is the same as eating fried food or cigarettes.
Well, as people who maybe attended my my talk this morning, after doing a lot of this work for 9 years and writing 2 books, one of the biggest issues that has risen to the top as a priority for me, and now is one of my most popular talks because people are incredibly interested in this, is drinking water. And I think that a non-negotiable for me at this stage is really getting water that's clean for your body, no matter how you do it. And there's a variety of ways to do it through filtration, but understanding the limitations of our water systems, both well water and municipal tap water, has risen to the top as something that really has made me quite angry. Because, it's something where the infrastructure is just so muddled and so, has not kept up with the changing world of environmental chemical exposures that end up in our water. And then the fact that we can actually control quality of drinking water at the point of use, which is at our sink, not all the time, but maybe 70, 80% of our lives can be controlled by drinking the water that we ourselves filter. That has become sort of a non-negotiable for me. I mean, I work with a lot of different people, but they're not expensive. These, for the vast majority, they're not expensive filtration systems. When it comes to non-negotiable as a top 10 list, I often give out. I have a refrigerator list actually in the book that was sort of my do this in your own journey, but kind of work your way through a 2-paged, very simple refrigerator tear-off sheet, because it is a journey and you're not going to do this overnight. And it is the type of thing that you just expressed and started to freak me out, which is, we could all just shut down and just say it's too much. It's too much to hear and it's too much to do. And what I like to tell patients and people and anyone I can get my hands on is that I went through that ledge period where I learned too much too quickly and it freaked me out, made changes, and then had to take a rest. And now I'm at a point where I feel like, we really have to just choose things that pertain to our lives intimately. If you have teenagers, I have preteens, think about their cosmetics, think about their personal care products, their body sprays. Think about the things that they are known to have high exposure to, which is plenty of personal care products. In fact, teenagers use the most personal care products per 24 hours than any other demographic. Endocrine disruptors are in most of these products that we use, but need to be vetted through ewg.org/skin deep. And I teach high school students how to look those up and how to reduce, those exposures and choose the ones that they want. I have teenagers that put laptops on their laps. When I walk through their schools to pick them up, I'm seeing all of these teenagers with laptops on their lap. And I don't want to cut into Theodora's top list of, musts, red lines, but I will mention that I'm seeing, my children through, my work now, looking at them in a very different way than I did when they were babies. And so I think you just want to pull from things that pertain to your life, because that's where it sticks. You know, nonstick pans would be reasonable to switch out. Carry your water in glass and stainless steel. It's easy to switch out. We give that information in the book because it's just kind of simple swaps, but they have benefits. And if you can make those simple swaps without too much effort or cost, it's a win. And why not? So that's really my messaging, is kind of go where things rank high in your life, because that's where it sticks. That's where it gets to your heart. And you'll be much more proactive and probably consistent with changes when it has personal meaning to you.
I like what you said about it being a journey, because it really is a journey with, you know, to start off, if we're going to talk about phones and things, is don't put the phone to your head. Plug in with a Ethernet cord when you can with your laptop. And the first thing that we did was at nighttime, give yourself time to rest, give your body time to not be exposed to electromagnetic fields. Make sure everything's turned off. If you have Wi-Fi in the home, if you have all this smart stuff, which we don't recommend, but what I did was go around the house and sort of kind of one by one swapped out the easy stuff. What's the low-hanging fruit that you can do? If you get overwhelmed, it's not going to help anyone. So taking those steps, you know, the easy stuff is really the phone at a distance. Get a cordless phone. I'm sorry, don't get a cordless phone. Get a regular corded phone for your home or office, so you can have those long phone conversations and have it not be wireless. Those are the first things I did. But I think what the question that you're raising brings another issue, which is we got to start talking about this and getting some policy change so that it's not on us to always say, oh, wait, you know, oh, that's toxic, or oh, this, because I can walk in a room or go to a party and I'll be like, oh yeah, chink, chink, you know, I'm noticing if there's a pan with Teflon or all of those things. But we got to get some policy change and start getting active, and starting with your community, like related to 5G. Is 5G coming? What's going on? Are there antennas that are being permitted in your community? Find out what they are and help. Let's get that change so we don't have to be like the FBI, checking everything and knowing, or even it shouldn't be our responsibility. So many hands make light work.
Just to follow up on that, what type of water should we use? Should we use distilled water, or what do you recommend exactly? What is best in terms of water, and what's the best filter? Like, what's our best choices?
Well, I'll start by saying I see patients in every different stage of life, whether they're going off to college, whether they're renting apartments, whether they're buying their first home. And I think you do want to make sure you understand that setting, because people don't want to feel bad that they're going to college and they really should have had a reverse osmosis water filter added to their dorm room. It's not going to happen. So I think you want to work with what stage of life you're in and what you can afford, and also, what you can handle in terms of your mobility from place to place. Now, that being said, there's different types of filters that you can get. There's carbon block, which is basically carbon or granular carbon. There's UV light, which kills basically bacteria and viruses, but doesn't do so great with shelled organisms that are harmful, like Giardia and Cryptosporidium. So there's limitations to almost every filtration system. And my opinion, again, I'm sticking to my opinion, having a home that I'm not moving from or renting, but of course I travel. When we did travel, is that I wanted to have a system like a reverse osmosis, because the cost has come down so dramatically. It's kind of like the VHSs in, the early 90s. They were huge, and, or cell phones, they were huge. And, as time went on, they got cheaper and smaller and cheaper and smaller. And now reverse osmosis water filters, if they're certified, vetted, they're NSF certified, and they're made in America, and they're not outsourcing parts like the filter portion, which is commonly done to other countries where you can't have oversight. If they're made in America, and particularly in California, for instance, is a company I like, but I can't share. But the idea is that, RO filters are the most aggressive way to clean water that consumers have at their disposal in the US. They go under your sink if you want to just simply use it for cooking and drinking. You can get a whole house filter, which I myself, we did not invest in at this point yet. It's quite expensive. So again, you want to work with what you're able to work with. But then there's pitcher filters, you know, as I mentioned, there's faucet filters, there's refrigerator door filters, mostly carbon block, distillers, which take out minerals, which some people do not like. However, minerals like calcium and magnesium, you can add in through your diet. So there's lots of different ways to do this. We describe them in the book. I hate to defer to the book, but it's just, I don't do it justice with this answer entirely, but I want people to know that my personal opinion is reverse osmosis. It's what dialysis machines use, just so people understand the cleanliness of that water is dialysis water using a dialysate. And so if it's good enough for patients that need dialysis, I think it's good enough for all human beings. And because they run $200 to $300 for a vetted one, and about $150 in this area for 1 hour for a plumber to put it in, 1 hour. You got to really know that there's a lot of junk water companies out there that are trying to scare you into a lot of big systems, but you really just need to buy your RO system, have it delivered, have a plumber put it in, and you're done. And then you basically pay for cartridges once a year. And it saves a lot of money, pays back itself in terms of buying plastic bottles, which, I prefer people not to do. But of course, when you're traveling and you're on the go, nothing is perfect. Nothing is perfect. It's how you manage as best you can with the world that we are now in. And that is the way the book was designed. That was, the way I message on The Smart Human on social media. It's about making small changes over time that stick. And that is how you're going to have an overall improvement and reduced risk, hopefully, of having of health issues long-term, short and long-term. So.
Is distilled water, aside from the minerals coming out, does distilled water solve the problem of getting all the bad things out?
All of these are dependent on the machine, on the apparatus that you research. There are many companies, not all of them are equal in terms of their certification and qualities. In general, distillers now, they do a great job with a lot of chemical removal, whether they each take off all chemicals like PFAS chemicals, perfluoralkyls are a newer class that we're studying. And you have to go back to the manufacturer of people who know and see whether or not that too is removed. But the problem with distillers, which may or may not be a problem with all units, is the VOCs, the volatile organic compounds, which actually are in the air, right? So when you steam, which is how distillers work, the VOCs can get trapped in the steam and actually not get removed. And so that's their limitation in general. Now, some distillers compensate for that issue by adding a carbon component. And so again, it's a lot of, not so much research, you can read my book and get a little more information, but the idea is that you do want to be an educated consumer. Consumer Reports does a good job of overseeing a lot of this. You want to just be an educated consumer, ask the right questions, and make sure things are as much as you can made in America and not outsourced, especially the, for instance, the filter portion of the RO filter. A Dow filter is a very important component because of the pore size. So again, these are the things you want to ask questions. It's not as complicated as people think, but it's definitely worth considering. Considering your water intake is so critical, and we need it for the rest of our lives. So getting a system right that's within $500 makes sense to me. Not to everybody, but certainly it saves money even on bottled water repetitively.